All
By the
right.
way, I can't hear you. Oh, never
Oh, you
mind.
can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes,
Uh,
as you were muted for a moment.
okay. That's just because I am an idiot. But it's okay. It's nothing new. You're used to this.
Yeah.
And would it really be a Life with Matthew stream if I didn't start the stream with audio issues? I don't think it is. I feel
Nope.
like people would feel cheated. Like, no, I come to this stream to see Matthew mess up somewhere. Oh, hello and welcome everyone on this wonderful Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. Unfortunately, it is not 2:22 in the morning. That would be pretty cool, because then you'd have tubes across the board. I know some people say it also works in the afternoon, but I use military time, and that would be 14:22. So that just, it doesn't work. It has to be first thing or no thing. But I hope you're doing well. We are not going to be doing the episode I said we'd be doing 2 weeks ago, because obviously we didn't do this last week, but I actually warned y'all ahead of time. So I feel a little bit proud of myself for telling you ahead of time that I'd not be doing it. Like, do I get to be proud about that, John? Or is that being proud about announcing failure?
I was going to say you're proud about your unreliability.
Yeah. Proud that I was able to see it coming for once.
Yeah, I suppose it's progress.
Yeah. This is baby steps. Baby steps. But no, last week I was getting the last little bits done for a lesson that I was teaching the next day, which went very well. It was a Bible lesson. For those who don't know, I teach high school or middle school and high school kids. So from 6th grade to 12th grade, every couple Wednesdays. So last time around, I was talking about a Bible passage talking how Jesus said, "Woe to you, Chorazin, Bethsaida, and Capernaum." It's really cool because he compares it to the city of Tyre. And I didn't know this at the time, but historically, Alexander the Great comes in. Everyone's like, "Oh crap, we're getting a Bible lesson." It's history, actually. Not that there'd be anything wrong if I chose to do the former. But Alexander the Great comes in, and the island city of Tyre surrenders. Says, "Fine, you win. We're not gonna fight, but you're not allowed to come in." And Alexander's like, "Screw that noise." So he cuts down the cedar trees that they're so proud of, and he floods or he doesn't flood, but he builds this like land bridge. They call it a mole, 200 feet wide, half a mile long, to the city of Tyre, and just razes it to the ground. Doesn't leave a stone left there. And it's so cool because he did this. The entire face of the earth was changed from then on out. Tyre used to be an island, and now it's an isthmus. The sand built up in the bay over time because he literally created a dam to get to the island. And now people have homes. There's a big city on it. And it's insane, the things they did in the past. And that...
So yes, you confirmed, you heard it here, that Matthew thinks it's cool that a city was destroyed.
Oh, yeah, the way it was destroyed, I mean, if you're going to go, that's a pretty noteworthy way of going. My goodness. I mean, being taken down by Alexander the Great in general, pretty noteworthy. But the way he did it was just such a cool way of doing things. Which, this is just like me talking about how World War I got started, and everyone's like, "Oh, you think it's so cool that the Archduke got murdered?" I'm like, well, no, but I think the way it happened was pretty fascinating.
So no, but yes.
So no, but yes, exactly, John. Thank you. I'm glad you get me. As much as I can be gotten. Oh, wow. So, hey, people in the chat. Had to go off on that little tirade. But little rabbit trail. But Josh was here early on, and John was pointing out that we're actually doing Brainlock, which I am impressed you got an emoji combination for that one.
You're pretty well supplied with brains and locks, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, that one was handed to you on a silver platter. I was interested to see what you do, and it was right on the nose. Then Josh here was here saying, "Dolphin Boy is late." I actually started, okay, like 5 seconds late, yes. But I had to burp and cough, and I didn't want you guys hearing that. I only subjected John to that. Sorry.
I feel honored.
And Thomas Potts was wondering, how can an episode be 11-ish, Matthew? And apparently Wikipedia listed it as episode 6, which that actually makes a lot of sense. And we will talk about that as the episode gets going here. But the long story short is, the way Peacock TV has it ordered, this is the last episode of the season. And it's definitely not the last episode of the season. In fact, finding out that it is the 6th episode makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, in like production, that's when it should have been aired, but they held it back and aired it 11th for who knows what reason.
I think just to confuse people?
Maybe.
But
and then Peacock messed it up even more by putting it last.
Yeah. But thankfully we got John here to set us straight. So it's like, Matthew, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to do Brainlock this week. And actually, John, you said do it whatever order you want. Just make sure that Weapons of War is last. Mm-hmm. Apparently that is the true finale. So we didn't want to get that wrong.
That's the one.
So we will be doing that one last. Brainlock is this week. So if you're watching it on your own, we're going to be watching what Peacock lists as season 3, episode 13. Or if you're watching this, future, you just don't want to go over to SciTube, which I will go ahead and put a link for everyone who wants to join us there. But that's how you can do it. It's going to be Brainlock, and it's going to be the 13th episode over on Peacock TV, and I'll make sure that I will link that as soon as it shows over in the YouTube chat. And yes, Thomas, Matthew has a Brainlock all the time. Definitely.
And by the way, for the first set, he heard a Windows event sound effect of some type.
Oh, did you?
I didn't hear it. There was an issue on your end or what?
Okay, that should fix that. Thank you for letting me know. Sometimes, so I also use OBS to record some gameplay stuff. If it's a game I don't think would be fun to actually play, but I want to do a short review on it at some point in the future, I record it. So I need my Windows audio unmuted, but sometimes I forget to mute that back for stream. So thank you for letting me know, by the way. Disappointed that. Got a lot of points tonight, apparently. None of them make any sense. Oh, me. Let's see, back in the chat. Thomas, it's Dolphin Boy, formerly known as Life with Matthew. Can't remember why he slept in the doghouse last night. I did not. But if I had, you would have been right, Josh. I definitely wouldn't remember by now. No, actually last night, so we have one of those video monitor things, hooks up to your Wi-Fi, and we have it in our boys' room, so that if they wake up in the night and something's wrong, we can go help them. Now, obviously, my oldest doesn't need it anymore, but my second, sometimes he needs this in the night. Well, apparently the app crashed on my phone overnight. And all of a sudden at 5 in the morning, like, my daddy senses just went haywire. And I get up, and I barely get out of my room, and I can just hear my second-born just screaming. And I have no idea how long he'd been doing that. Just screeching. And it turned out he'd had some nightmare that he didn't want to talk about. But later on, he's like the 9 planets started to float around, and it really scared me. I'm like, okay, that makes as much sense as anything I ever say, so I accept this. But so I didn't sleep in the doghouse, but I did have to go take care of that in the middle. Can you even call that the middle of the night anymore? At 5 in the morning? That's more like
dawn.
Yeah, I had to take care of that in the wee hours of the morning, the dawn hours of the morning. Thomas is saying, I'm sure Matthew will coherently explain it. Oh, about the episodes? That is... Yeah, what's in the chocolate milk I'm drinking? I want to know the same thing, Thomas. I think someone slipped you something there. As for when Amy's going to stream, not soon enough. Yeah, I do have a second camera in here. And one of these days, I'm going to get it set up enough such that hopefully I can get Amy to do a stream or two with me. And maybe what we can do is have Amy read the chats. And I think that'd work pretty well. Because goodness knows I can't stay on top of it. Let's see, Professor Brainy Specs, how are you doing tonight? I hope you are doing well. Skimming down here real quick, just trying to make sure I don't miss anyone. Pop Culture Curator, glad you're here tonight. Trek Reviewer hanging out over on the other one I use, Twitch. There we go. I was trying to say Skype for a second. I'm like, it's not Skype, you idiot. Try again. Twitch. Glad you're hanging out with us tonight, Trek Reviewer. We see 2 dead characters in this episode. What is it you go by? Oh, yeah, you will see that. Bit of a spoiler there. But it's going to be, like, really evident how quickly of a spoiler that is. So no worries. So here's how it's going to work, everyone. Now that I'm caught up in the chat by skipping over most of it. Is that me praising my failures again?
Sounds like it.
It does. It seems like I'm just in an attitude to praise my failures tonight. So you guys gonna hopefully stick with this. Professor Brainspace saying it's MySpace. Or have I forgotten Jill? Probably. Who's Jill? Which Jill?
Well, I think that's a discussion between Jeff and Thomas. I'm not sure you're ever privy to who Jill is.
Maybe if I didn't skip over chats, I would understand what's going on right now.
Probably not.
Probably not. Hey, Springtime, how you doing? Okay, so here's how it works, everyone. I have pinned the link over to SciTube over in YouTube. So you're here in the future, you can go there, but it's not going to do anything for you. This only works while we are streaming this right now. So if you want to watch us in the future, we kind of got you covered. The answer is go to peacocktv.com and sign up for one of their free accounts. You can see SeaQuest, obviously, all 3 seasons, and they actually just started a new series, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They decided to reboot that one. And the first episode is not good. You remember all the wittiness of Will Smith? It's gone. Like, it's just so gone. They basically said, hey, how about we make an episode that focuses on the first 5 seconds of the intro song? And yeah, it goes about as well as you would expect for a reboot. But still, there's lots of good things over there, like SeaQuest. So go to SeaQuest.com, well, go to PeacockTV.com, and you can watch it. If you don't want to sign up for another account, I mean, it's free. But if you don't want to do that, I actually get it. Instead, go over to Amazon, and you can get all 3 seasons on DVD. They technically have it on Blu-ray, but I'm not sure what sort of improvement you're going to get on it because it's only 480p, I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't think they recorded SeaQuest even at 720. This is... You work with the technology of the time, and they did not record this on super high def quality, I'm pretty sure. Maybe someday someone will buy it and they can let me know just how completely wrong I was about that. But if you don't want to do either one of those things, maybe you're on your cell phone, maybe you are on a computer and you don't want to have multiple windows open. I don't know. I'm not judging, but we got you covered still. Once every 3 to 5 seconds, I grab a clip and it's going to be in this window right below me over that way. There we go. And it's just going to show you a still image with no sound. If sound starts coming through, please let me know so I can mute it. Because I don't want to get to the last 3 episodes and have Peacock upset at me. Who was it? NBC. I don't want them being like, how dare you do this? Because they've been really cool about this whole thing. I mean, it doesn't help or it doesn't hurt anything that, you know, we're literally protected by fair use, but hey, sometimes people don't listen to that. Sometimes CBS, they're kind of jerks about it. Or I'm sorry, I can't say CBS anymore. Viacom. Viacom gets pretty pissy about it. Good night, Pop Culture. You take care.
Yeah, sure.
And yes, Babylon 5 is next when I can. We're going to see how things go. I've been talking with my client. Allegedly, they're always ready to go, but just not today. And they actually have a second job they need me to do that they're probably not going to have me do because they're like, no. Like, I'm like, look, at most this job is a 1 month long job. And they say, you don't have a month. We're going to start you doing this other big project much sooner than that. So here's hoping they actually do it. We'll find out. But I am worried that with that going on and with my other responsibilities that I won't have time to do Babylon 5. I'm going to need that extra night to be doing my other stuff. But we're going to see. Once things start settling down, I'll know my schedule better. and we'll figure out when Babylon 5 can start up. In the meantime, let's get started with this, guys. What do you say?
Sounds good.
All right, so hopefully you've had a chance to come over to SciTube if you're going to do the watch party with us, and if not, I will hit play over here in just a second so that you can watch this with us. So let's see, I'm going to need this one. Oh, where's my... Oh, there we go. Wow. Wow. Sometimes it takes me a minute, guys. It's maybe if I didn't miss my own streams every other week, I would remember this stuff. Probably not. So here we go. I'll give you a 3 count, and then I'm hitting this button. 3, 2, 1. Hit the play button if you're watching this in the future. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's coming through. I don't think. You know, I just watched the whole episode with her, and for the life of me, I can't remember her name beyond Lieutenant. Everyone just says, oh, there's Lieutenant.
Well, they should go to rank correct, but her name is Fredericks.
Fredericks, okay. But she's doing a practice run. The goal is just to get target lock. And they actually do like a little non-destructive firing on each other. I guess a very low powered laser beam, kind of like what they did in the TNG episode, the War Games one, where Riker Peak Performance. There we go. I knew you'd get it once I could think of like half a sentence worth of details, other than that one TNG episode. So yeah, in Peak Performance, they had all their weapons swapped out to be like simulated or very low powered. Just enough to go bink, bink on your sensors. So I think that's what they do here. And I mean, they do this in real life too. The goal is just to get a target lock in real life. You don't actually do like a low powered bullet. I don't think it works quite like that.
I doubt it.
But unfortunately, Lieutenant Frederick, she gets a little too cocky here, and you see she almost drowns. But it turns out that was 4 years ago. Because, I mean, I was watching them like, she's really freaking out right now. That doesn't make much sense for her to be this scared, knowing that she has a chip that's supposed to inhibit emotions. The anti-data chip or anti-emotion chip.
Mm-hmm.
So the UEO contract or charter has expired, and they need to do a new one. And they make it sound like this is like a very regular occurrence. And not in this scene, but later on they talk about how on the next charter or the next thing, then they'll bring it up again. But anyways, this guy Noonan, he says some half-thought comment about people who have the little suppressor chip. And it doesn't go over well, because apparently his waiter also has one of these chippy things. And he confronts him in the alleyway saying, I want the starter code for their little attack subs. And I guess UEO just doesn't properly train its people. You can see that he's trying to grab the hand that's choking him instead of hitting him in the elbow or just punching him in the face or doing any number of things that potentially could have gotten him to stop being choked, since this guy was completely and painfully wide open.
Sounds like you've given this a lot of thought.
Half a second. Just a half second. And I'm not even military trained. Just, oh hey, if there's a guy attacking me, there's probably 4 things you can do really, really quickly. Knee him in the groin. Like that's a pretty effective measure if you're the guy choking you out is a guy standing in front of you. Professor, you're trying to get me to think the episode name was Performance in the Peak? I wouldn't fall for it that readily. Maybe if I was trying to remember an episode of the animated series, I'd probably very readily believe you. So this is when I knew the airing order was really, really wrong. Brody's back. In fact, later on we find out... Go on.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, even Matthew notices when a dead guy shows up again.
Yeah. It's hit and miss. But this time I did notice that he showed... Well, see, I noticed that Brody showed up. I was trying to decide this other guy, Bourne.
Mm-hmm.
The main bad guy. Did he die?
No, he didn't die.
Or get arrested or anything?
I don't think so.
I didn't have a chance to go through the other episodes, but I swear something happened with him because we haven't seen him in a while.
I think last time we saw him was in the episode where Brody got killed, or it's when Henderson was going to be executed.
What else was going? They're going through. Was that Resurrection? Maybe. No, that was Good Soldiers.
Spindrift was the one where Brody died.
Good Soldiers was the one where they went to the cloning facility where they were doing the test on the Gilfs or Gelfs.
Yeah.
Gilfs. Wow. Gelfs. Okay, so yeah, Spindrift. I think that's the last time we saw him. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously the last time we saw Brody.
Yes.
So Captain Jellicoe is worried about being seen with the Senator right now because it's not a good time for the UEO, which UEO, UN, effectively the same thing. Like, more than this being the charter, I feel like this is a call for more funding, that they've run out of money, and they need to make sure that the budget for the next year is approved so they can keep doing operations. So Jellicoe's worried that by being seen with the Senator, they're not going to garner enough votes to get the charter passed. Instead, the president of Micronesia, Bourne, will be able to persuade people to end the funding for the UEO. And of course, Jellicoe rightly points out that the UEO is the only thing keeping Micronesia from, invading the rest of the world, basically. And honestly, I had forgotten about Dion Industries guy over here almost completely. Which, again, mostly my fault.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the last time we saw Dion Industries, was that the train episode? Destination Terminal?
Yeah, when he was talking about Omni, that's what he was referring to.
They need Joe Biden to negotiate. I mean, he's definitely, Biden's definitely been threatening those sanctions. See their press conference, he says Russia's trembling in their boots, basically, because of those strong sanctions from the U.S.
Sure they are.
But Dion is saying that, look, even though they don't get along very well, and yes, technically he tried to have a hired assassin kill 2 or 3 of the UEO members. Water under the bridge, bygones be bygones. We're on the same side because, he's in favor of free enterprise. And without UEO stopping Micronesia, there's not going to be free enterprise, and Dion Industries would suffer financially. And yeah, just let's see, Destination Terminal would have been 2 episodes ago if this had really been the 6th episode released.
Hmm.
And Piccolo is studying for the officer's exam that we already know he failed, but, you know, Jellicoe came along and said, don't be discouraged. Yes, it sucks, but you're going to do even better the next time. A single failure is not the end-all, be-all. Or the officer's, not exam, but test. I want to say, was Spindrift also the episode where he got the reading glasses? Or the anti-dyslexia glasses?
I don't remember for sure which episode the glasses were in.
I don't think it was Change the Command. That was the one where you had the people on the really remote colony that were going a little bit stir-crazy.
Mm-hmm.
By a little bit, I mean, like, they went completely stir-crazy. It wasn't just, like, a remote colony. It was, like, a secret base that they were stuck at with really no way out. For an extremely long period of time. Yeah, I think Destination Terminal was where Piccolo got the glasses.
Okay.
It's so interesting. So President Bourne is talking about how the UEO is... What have I been saying? I was saying something not UEO, wasn't I? I'll have to go back and listen.
Well, I'm not sure.
Anyway, the UEO, which is what it's actually called, he's saying that they've outlived their usefulness. And it's interesting listening to him because it's like, well, he's the bad guy, but I actually agree with a lot of what he's saying when you think about it being the UN. Like the UN, it's really outlived its usefulness. Like, I don't feel like it's doing anything except getting a lot of people to get its money. Like, if an actual war broke out, I don't think the UN would do anything. There'd be too much conflict. It's not like they have their own military force.
Well, I agree with you about the UN. I think the UEO is kind of similar to the Federation, where it's kind of a combination where it's part of the UN, but also it's part of the United States at the same time.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, the UN doesn't have a military force.
Yeah, the UEO definitely has a military force. It's a military force comprised of the individual nations, which I think in real life that might create issues. Like, oh hey, the UEO is attacking my nation right now. I don't think I'm okay with that. But it works in the show somehow. Hey, Mike Shriver, how you doing? How do I get into the live chat? You just type. That's it. You did it. Or do you mean onto the panel? If you're talking about like up here with John and me, Tuesday nights I don't open that up to panel stuff. So Bourne, the guy who is against the UEO, he's going off in the sub here. And those 2 guys from earlier who got tasered from the chippy waitress, they now have chips of their own and they're attacking this sub. And remember that they are UEO officers. And just before they attack, Lieutenant Frederick, like, she gets a momentary mental shock of them coming in. So the lieutenant, she tells them to stand down, and they tell her just to do her duty. And she's trying to get them to stand down, and they're just not doing it. Apparently this guy's name is Newman. Newman. And she does the exact same maneuver we saw her do in the opening stinger for the show, except this time, instead of hitting a cliff face, she pulls up in time after successfully destroying both of them. But she saves President Bourne, so technically saves the day.
By the way, I have to disagree with you on that one, Professor.
Yeah, I disagree as well. Yeah, pretty cool. And O'Neill's racking on Piccolo. He's complimenting him, but it's kind of a backhanded insult. He's like, hey, I think it's so cool that you're going for the officer's test. When you first started, I didn't think you'd last a minute. And Piccolo's like, excuse me, I'm trying to study here. And we see that Piccolo is... We're going, John.
Sorry. I was just saying, when you think about it, if you wanted to get someone to help him read, it would make more sense to ask O'Neill than Henderson, since O'Neill's the linguist.
Yeah. Yeah. Lewis was a little upset that Piccolo didn't ask him for help since they're roommates and everything.
That too.
But Piccolo's like, yeah, you're bright, but you're not a good teacher. And O'Neill's like, yeah, you know what they say, those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach languages.
Well, I'm wondering is that Piccolo may have had some other qualifications that O'Neill and Lucas didn't quite meet.
Yes, Piccolo is definitely longingly looking at Henderson. And Lewis is like, hey, we didn't have this conversation. You didn't hear it from me, but I don't think she's available. You need to check on that first. Because remember, at the end of Destination Terminal, it was still a secret that they were dating, and Lewis found out quite by accident that Henderson and Ford were dating and has sworn himself to secrecy. So, as usual, Jellicoe has an extremely good point here. Ford did not go to engage the two UEO fighter subs as they came in. Now, in real life, so they came in and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. They're UEO subs. Everything's fine. No, in actual real life, anyone who's approaching a vessel like this with a dignitary on board, you don't go, oh, well, it's a U.S. vessel, so it's okay. No, everyone has to provide identification. You don't get to come up on Air Force One just because you're a United States plane, or even in the U.S. Army. Air Force, excuse me. What would Army be doing with a plane? And so Lieutenant Frederick steps in it's not his fault. It seemed okay. And Jellicoe says, no, don't, you be quiet. It is not okay to ignore two random people coming up on the sub. You should have moved to engage. And, he's a little embarrassed. Brody's a little embarrassed. And he makes a comment about, well, maybe if I had all my emotions suppressed with a chip also. And Jellicoe's not going to let that fly. He talks about how, she's suffered more than you imagine. He's like, oh, when's the last time you had sex? And Brody's like, excuse you? He's like, imagine being monitored 24/7, such that your every action would have been known. She has no privacy whatsoever, and yet she still has subjected herself to this because she wants to be the best. And apparently she is so overwhelmed with fearfulness after her accident that she's not able to do anything. She's immobilized with fear. So she has to have the chip so she can be the best again.
But even with her chip that suppresses her emotions, she still realizes that the best person to go to in a time of crisis is Darwin.
She just happened to be doing some light electrical repair next to a giant water source. And just happened to drop the instrument so Darwin would come talk to her. And Frederick is again sticking up for Brody. But I mean, Jellicoe, he knows the score. He's like, just take care of business. She's going to be running point on this episode. And Brody's going to be your second in command. Thomas Potts, I have an idea for SeaQuest final episode. If you say a character's name wrong one time, that Saturday night you must play Left 4 Dead 2. An interesting challenge. Would I be able to say it right?
I like it. I like it.
So Lieutenant, she takes out her emotion suppression chip thing and puts it into a CR2032 battery holder and uploads it to her doctor. And she's talking about how she feels like she got scared in the moment, like she had a nightmare. And he goes, well, did you have any tears? He goes, well, I guess not from your silence. And he's talking about how her emotions are seized up right now, that the chip is suppressing her fear, but as a result, she's not processing the things that happened to her, which is interesting. But then he just suppresses it even harder. Like he ups the setting so that it's even more suppressed. So it's interesting that on the one hand, they recognize that by removing emotions, it's psychologically damaging to her, and at the same time, still removing those emotions. So Dion apparently had a smartwatch. Starts beeping at him that he's getting a phone call. And it's the doctor who was just helping the lieutenant, saying that her program has been altered and they have control over her now. Piccolo's warning Ford that he's got some cavitation coming up here. And Ford might want to sit down, and Ford's like, yeah, whatever, I'm fine. And sure enough, they hit the cavitation, and Ford gets sent knocking around a little bit. He's like, you know what, yeah, I think I will take this seat here. He says, nice recovery, and Ford goes, yeah, you too, sir. So keep in mind that Ford and Henderson are still secret. And, you know, Piccolo's kind of poking the bear here, saying, are they dating? What's the actual situation? And he's like, I'm assuming that Henderson canceled her plans with you so she could help me. I hope that doesn't bother you. Some guys are kind of funny about that. And so, at first, Ford responds pretty maturely. He's like, look, I don't know what you think you've heard, but what you and Henderson do after hours is none of my business. And then Piccolo's like, oh, well, thank you for clearing that up for me. And Ford realizes, oh, there's some interest there. And now he's like, look, if you can't keep your relationship with Henderson professional, then you stay away from her. And Piccolo goes, oh, yes, now we're really clear. Like, okay, yeah, I see that. I see what's really up here. Which, I think Ford had one other instance of kind of being jealous about Henderson. but I'm much, I don't know. I'm glad they didn't go too far with that plot line. It's bad enough that Neelix was that possessive and jealous of Cass. I didn't need to see it in SeaQuest.
Well, even though I'd say that, yes, Ford is definitely jealous, understandably so. I think there was in a different episode where we had a discussion with Piccolo about this. They need to be careful fraternizing between an enlisted and an officer, because that's generally frowned upon anyway.
Mm-hmm. So Lieutenant Fredericks is doing something right. Doing something. She has a gun out, looking down into the UEO room. And just before she did it, you saw that she took her chip off and put it into the gun. And I think that by doing that, they've created kind of a remote connection to the gun so that she's able to do the simulation mode of someone coming onto the main UEO diadem on the ground and taking her shot. So she's kind of going through the motions of some sort of assassination attempt. Now, Bourne is accusing the UEO of making a threat on his life. And hey, he's not wrong, at least on the surface level. 2 UEO subs did come and start attacking his ship. And considering the fact that right now the idea of the charter being renewed is the main thing in the news, it does look like they're trying to silence some opposition. And who knew that Jellicoe was such a savvy politician? The Bourne was about to huff out, or stalk off in a huff, and he quickly grabs Frederick and goes, "Oh, I just want you to know that this is the person that saved your life. While we don't know if the UEO is really the one responsible, we definitely know that this UEO officer is the one that saved you." Because he was pointing out Bourne was pointing out the bad optics of, it looks like the UEO tried to kill him, and now the UEO is going to investigate people who may also be in the UEO. I mean, that's really not a good situation. You need a third party investigating it.
True, yes.
And Lieutenant Frederick, she's somehow trying to fight the chip control of her. Which, I think it makes a lot of sense for her to be able to kind of resist it, whereas the other 2 guys didn't. She's had several years of dealing with this chip to kind of understand how it can impact your impulses, whereas those 2 guys were quickly fitted and had zero ability to kind of process whatever this chip is doing. Which you do have to wonder how this chip would have worked. You could see it being something like a tiny MRI machine almost, that would have targeted like fields going into the brain to suppress certain emotions, like specifically targeting almost like, oh hey, we see that this area of the brain is becoming too stimulated, so we do something to decrease the stimulation in this area. Or you wonder if they just have wires directly done in, like the Terminal Man. Either way, Brody comes up and he apologizes. Like, look, I was out of line. I shouldn't have been saying that stuff about you. And she says something like, if you get in my way again, I'm basically going to kill you. Like, she straight up threatens him. And she slams some sort of paperwork on him and says, here's your orders, you follow it to the letter. Hey, Daniel's Hot Topic, how you doing? Not Broly, Brody. Broly is perhaps the only true Super Saiyan from Dragon Ball Z. Brody is a dead man walking. And to answer your question, we're watching SeaQuest, Daniel. Aw, Piccolo. And Broly and Piccolo. Hilarious. No, so Piccolo, he's like, look, I'm leaving early for the officer exam. And honestly, maybe we shouldn't be spending so much time together. It's making Ford uncomfortable. And Henderson's like, well, he has nothing to worry about. And Piccolo goes, well, he kind of does. And Henderson's touched, but she gently sets that aside. Thomas. Technically, I'm not saying that they're saying the wrong name. I'm saying that they heard me say the wrong name, which is a question of did they hear me wrong, or the more likely option of did I say it wrong?
True.
It could totally be both. So Brody came and reports her. I think this is actually a very... on the one hand, it's like, oh, he tattled on her. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, a fellow military officer threatened your life. That's kind of inappropriate. I mean, it's one thing if your drill sergeant's barking at you. But two lieutenants? Pretty inappropriate. Unfortunately, it looks like Brody is lying. The doctor's online saying if she had had any thoughts like this, he would have known immediately because, as we established earlier in the episode, they have no privacy. Their every thought is being known by, the military people observing it. So as a result, Brody gets dismissed. Jellicoe finds it weird, but between the trust that he has for Lieutenant Frederick and the backing up from the doctor, it looks like Brody's the one lying about all this. So here we get the big reveal that the doctor is working with Dion Industries, who's also working with Macronesia. Dun, dun, dun. And the president of Macronesia is wondering, like, how much control do they have over her? And Dion Industries says, oh, we can demonstrate. Would you strangle the doctor? And we see that she has just no control anymore. That they've done what they need to do to have full control over everything she does. That she's going to just blindly listen to Dion at this point. Do I read comic books? Yes. Yes, I do. I don't read any American comic books. But I read a lot of South Korean, Japanese, and Chinese comics. In fact, Daniel, if you do enjoy comic books, I think a series that you specifically, like last time I read this through, I thought Daniel would love this one, I think. It's called History's Strongest Disciple, Kenichi. And I think you would very, very much enjoy it. It is a series that focuses a lot on strong female karate fighters. Have I read House of M? No, like I just said, I don't read any American comics. So Ford and Henderson are having a bit of a fracas here. Bit of a spat. And she's kind of ready to let everyone know what's going on. You don't know what to say to what, Thomas? Oh, to Josh's comment, Matthew reads those Kurogan comics. I was unaware Bird of Prey 5 put out any adult-oriented comics, which I know don't read.
I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear about that.
I guess it's just his side hustle, but yeah, I didn't need to know that. So Henderson, she's upset about this, and Ford is like, "Well, I thought you said that, you know, doing something in secret is kind of naughty in a good way." She's like, "No, no, sending a dirty email is kind of naughty in a dirty way." Oh, Tom is saying, you don't know what to say to me only reading Asian comics. Nothing to say? It's none of that tentacle stuff, if that's what you're thinking. So Brody's upset that he's been ordered to sit on his hands. And oh, eating the banana sideways.
Yeah, so Dagwood's least consistent about how he eats bananas.
Dagwood confesses that sometimes he sits on his hands. So Brody finally looks at the orders he got, because even though he's been dismissed, he still was carrying around this little envelope. And he finds her chip was in there. But no, I honestly, the reason I only read the Asian comics is they have a beginning to their story and they have an end to the story. And then that's it. The comic's over. The story's done. With American comics, it's the same story recycled over and over and over. And said, hey, how about this time we make Captain America a woman? How about we make him Latino? How about, I'm like, I don't want you to change a character. Just make a new character. Make a new story. Do something exciting. But instead it's just reset after reset. And they think they're doing something major by doing like this super minor change, and it's just not, it's not interesting to me. So now they're going around seeing how people are voting, and it looks very promising for the UEO. But thankfully, Brody put it together. He took the chip over to Lewis, and they found that on her chip implant thing was this simulation of shooting some of the UEO chambers. Angelico's like, can you take her offline? And he goes, no, taking her offline at this point would alert whoever's controlling her and frankly be dangerous. She might die. Angelico says it doesn't matter, take her offline. She knew the risks when she signed up for it. Do they fight doppelgangers? Usually not. I haven't read too much of the Dragon Ball Super manga, Daniel. It kind of is falling into that American trap of just recycling the story. And Frederick, she's fighting it still. I mean, Lewis is helping a little bit. But I feel like she's the one that really pulled it out. She's the one who was able to bring this to a victory. So Frederick is driving without the chip now. She's able to feel all her emotions. And it really doesn't matter, but I think this is the only time that they use this music in all the series.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I like it. It's a neat little... It's definitely not an action tune. It's something I could see on repeat in a video game, like a Sega Genesis game. I can see as you're exploring the area, just this do going on. Hey, Robert, we were just talking about Dragon Ball and American versus Asian comics. And Frederick, she confronts him, but she's actually quite scared. And as a result, Dion is able to really get the upper hand on her. Leave her dangling. But thankfully, Jellicoe's here to save the day. Good, one good right cross, that's all Dion needed. Thomas is saying, I'm a communist. What? Wow. And Thomas saying that's an insult to communists everywhere. Matthew's a Kurogan. Thank you. Thank you. Robert, I too recently watched through the DBZ Abridged. I have a program I use called a 4K downloader that you can use to download different YouTube clips. And I use that to grab all the DBZ Abridged stuff because every so often, whoever, I think it's Funimation, goes against them and all their videos disappear. So if ever in the future those videos are gone, I don't want to have lost them forever. And Dion confessed to everything. He confessed to the collusion with Macronesia, the assassination attempt. And Jellicoe's telling him that you got 24 hours to surrender yourself to UEO authority. And, Macronesia guy, he's like, well, I don't know if his statements are really going to hold up. And earlier you heard about the black guy who was this guy. He's a trained assassin, extremely talented, but he pulls a Lee Harvey Oswald. Isn't that the guy who, as he was coming out, it was Lee Harvey who was coming out, someone came up and just shot him point blank, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was Jack Ruby was the guy who shot him.
Yeah. I can't think of the guy who did the shooting. I could only think of Lee, who got shot. So they're talking about how Dion really pulled a fast one on this assassin guy. So apparently Macronesia was willing to give him the money that Dion had promised him. But he messes up. He shoots him in the stomach instead of shooting him somewhere extremely more immediately lethal. So it looks like maybe they can save Dion's life. I was on the grassy knoll. Not quite, Thomas. I'm not that old. Daniel's saying, ever played The Little Mermaid on Sega Genesis? I rented a Sega Genesis from Blockbuster and I rented The Little Mermaid. It was nice. That must have been a long time ago, Daniel. But no, I haven't played it for the Sega, although I do own it for the NES. Brody wishes her congratulations and she gets a medal for her work. And she's finally starting to tear up a little bit here. So Jellicoe kind of, discreetly walks over to the teleconference button, which thankfully has a static button on it. Which I bet there's been many a Zoom call where people wish they could push the accidentally disconnect because of internet problems button.
Yep.
And Jellicoe is such a good captain. He says, I hope that, the past 3 days you were fighting this. And I hope that now that you don't have the chip attached, it has shown you that you are capable of functioning without it. And that you are finally able to put those fears to rest. The point that all she's really been doing this whole time by having a chip to prevent her from being afraid was her living in her fear, unable to confront the reality of what happened to her. And so she's finally able to move past that and start crying. Josh is saying it said that DBZA and the old Ocean dub is better than the Funimation dub. I'm not familiar with the old Ocean dub, Josh. I do know that the DBZ guys, or DBZA guys, really worked to make sure that the lip movements were very much on point, especially as the series got more popular and they got more talented. Whoops. There we go. Robert is saying that Team 4 Star has started a new series now, a Hiffle series. Home for Infinite Losers. Yes, I enjoy it. It's pretty funny. Which, Hiffle is the Dragon Ball Z version of hell. It's just over in America, they didn't want to actually say hell, so instead they changed it to say Hiffle, and said it stood for Home for Infinite Losers. So that was really episode 6. It definitely fit in place there. But at the very least, that was episode 13/11-ish for us. What did you think of it, John?
I think it was good that an episode that was on the surface about political intrigue, but it also had the more personal story dealing with Frederick's character and her overcoming her fears. So I like it when an episode can basically take the two plots and we weave them together like that.
Yeah, and honestly, we hadn't done much of anything with Fredericks the entire season. So it was nice to have an episode that focused on her and gave her a chance to develop. Which, I mean, it's hard to do a character development with a character who has no emotions. Ultimately, it seems like whenever you're trying to do development for a character like that, so a character like Spock or Data, you have them do something emotional. Like, they develop by having an emotional moment. Like, you have the Amok Time with Spock. And he has that moment where he sees Kirk come through the door and he goes, "Jim!" And there's a brief smile on his face. And then he sees, whoops, I compose myself. And that was a big character development moment for him. And then, of course, with Data, as he became more human, they had him become less of the robotic Vulcan and more of a character who did things. So it's really hard to have that just emotionless character. Even Tuvok, when they wanted to do a really big character development episode for him, in Gravity, they had it show his past, where he was an emotional teenager. And so it was the process of, suppressing those emotions and embracing the Vulcan ideology that was his character development. Just emotions in reverse. So I'm very glad that they had her develop this way, and I'm glad that they took such a minor thing like the chip and actually did something really big with it. Like, it was almost a throwaway thing at the a throwaway thing in the first episode with her. Like, oh, and by the way, she has a chip that suppresses fear. Okay, that's an interesting character trait. And then to take that and instead of it having be this really cool thing about her, turn it into, actually, this is a major issue. It's holding her back. Thomas is saying it's called Time Amok. It is not. It is not. Can I watch First Contract? I think I said that one, didn't I, Thomas? I'm pretty sure I literally said First Contract. But no,
That's what I heard, yeah.
Every once in a while, Thomas, I do get a name right, and there is my once a day rightness. It was Amok Time.
I liked how the characters in this story, even when they disagreed with each other, for the most part, acted maturely. Like the issue between Piccolo and Ford and Henderson, I think that could have devolved very quickly. And although there was probably some butting of heads there, ultimately it was resolved and everybody's basically still on good terms.
Yeah. And even the stuff with Brody when he was initially doing his headbutting, it felt like it was more because he was embarrassed about his own mistake and lashing out, as opposed to some sort of like deep animosity toward Frederick. I say that, but I think we heard him make a little snide remark about the chip. Maybe in the first episode we saw her in, maybe the second. I forget, but he did make some sort of comment in the past.
Still, they were kind of been rivals earlier in the season.
Yeah. It still didn't feel like he was being really chippist or really like, oh, I just hate her so much. It really came off in this episode, at least, as more of he was embarrassed and he lashed out. And he realized he was in the wrong, and he actually apologized to her twice. Once when she was under the influence, and then a second time, I guess it wasn't apologize, but more getting past his own hold-up and truly embracing and congratulating her. Trek reviewer, did I know Favor the Bald was the name of a Deep Space Nine episode? You know, I think I heard a name very similar to that. Maybe just a single letters difference. I think it was Flavor the Bald, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that.
But did you have any kind of negative thoughts about this episode this week, John?
Not a whole lot. I appreciated it. The only negative I can think of is that Darwin could have had a larger role.
True. I mean,
he's very efficient. Even when he only appears briefly, though, you can tell what an impact he has. I'm sure it was the advice that Fredericks got from Darwin, which was allowed her to finally fight back and overcome the effects of her chip.
I think that works out. Timeline wise. But very cool. Next week, guys, we are going to be doing Reunion, which I already made a prediction for that. We would be seeing the son of the first captain, whose name has just completely flown my mind right now. The first captain had a beard.
If you build a bridge, you'll be able to figure it out.
Maybe Bridger. Yes, thank you. I see what you did there. Wow. My mind just went. It's like I turned around, and there's a giant forest behind me, and as I turn around to look at the forest, it's like a cartoon. There's a dust cloud, and there's just a desert. Just a never-ending desert wilderness in my memory mindscape. It was horrible. But yes, Bridger. I predicted that Bridger's son would show back up, and that'd be what we see in Reunion. We'll see if I'm right next week. I did make a prediction for the name of this week. However, I assure you, I would have gotten it wrong. Based on the name of Brainlock, I would have presumed it was going to be a Lewis focus episode, and we would have had him trying to beat some countdown timer before a bomb went off, and he wasn't able to get past it. He was going to be in a Brainlock state. That would have been my guess for this week, which would have been completely wrong, but still, there's my prediction for this week's episode. You already heard the one for next week. it's impossible for John to have a negative view. No, that's not true, Thomas. There's been a couple episodes where there's been a plot issue that we've called out. Or specifically, John has called out.
If you want to hear about negative views, though, just ask me about Discovery.
I've noticed that on your videos, John, you tend to skip over a specific series pretty consistently. Like you show all the red alerts from all of Star Trek franchises, but there's a series missing, it seems.
Yeah, I didn't notice any red alerts in the Orville, so I left those out.
Well, true.
I think they have a different name for it.
Oh, wow. Robert Rose Jr. calling me out.
It's true.
He's right, everyone. Wow. Yes.
Their question is, do you remember her name?
It was Riker. I hope.
No.
I was really hoping that Trek Reviewer was giving me a hint there. It was a shot in the dark. It was the closest I was going to get. But yes, as Robert was saying, the first captain of the SeaQuest was a woman. She tried to start a world war on everyone. But thankfully Ford stepped in and stopped her.
Indeed. It would have been a stark contrast to the future of the show if Ford hadn't stopped her.
That's true. And Professor saying there's no series missing from John's videos.
Oh, thank you.
That must be it. Josh saying, wasn't it Troy? No, it wasn't Troy. What was her name? Do you remember, John?
Indeed, I do. In fact, I just gave you a hint.
You did?
Which you didn't realize was a hint. Yes.
Give me the hint again.
I said it would have been a stark contrast to the show if Ford hadn't stopped her.
Was her name something Stark? Captain Stark? Was it Captain Stark?
I think her first name was Marilyn, but yes, it was Stark.
Captain Janeway. I don't think it was Janeway, Professor. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight. We are going to wrap it up here, and we will see you next week. There should, in fact, the next 2 weeks. Yes, in the next 2 weeks, I think my schedule is clear. We should be able to get the last 2 episodes of SeaQuest done, and that should be just the perfect timing as things start back up in my life. So thanks for hanging out with us. We look forward to seeing you next week for Season 3, Episode 12-ish, 11 if you're going by Peacock, Reunion. We'll see y'all then.
Night.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. And be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.